What if you could turn invisible anytime you wanted, but one day you realized you couldn't turn back? Imagine this. You're walking down a busy street, people everywhere, cars passing by, noise all around, and then you whisper one simple word, "Now." Suddenly, you disappear. No one screams, no one reacts, because nobody even notices. You're still there, but you're invisible. You look down at your hands. They're gone. Your heart starts racing, not because you're scared, but because you realize something insane. You can become invisible anytime you want. At first, it feels like a dream, like a superpower straight out of a movie. You could escape any situation. No more awkward conversations, no more embarrassing moments, no more being judged. If life gets uncomfortable, you can simply vanish. But then you start thinking, if you could become invisible anytime, what would you do? Most people would say they'd use it for good, to stop crime, to help people, to become a hero. But deep down, many would use it for something else, something selfish, something dangerous. Because invisibility doesn't just hide your body, it hides your identity. It hides your guilt. It hides your consequences. And that's where the real problem begins. At first, the world would celebrate. Scientists would go crazy trying to understand it. Governments would panic. News channels would explode. Because suddenly, invisibility wouldn't be fiction anymore. It would be real. And people would start testing limits. Someone walks into a store invisible and takes whatever they want. Someone sneaks into places they were never supposed to enter. Someone listens to private conversations. Someone spies. Someone stalks. Someone breaks laws without fear. Because when no one can see you, you start believing no one can stop you. Soon, crime rates would rise overnight. Banks would become impossible to protect. Cameras would be useless. Police would be helpless. Because how do you arrest someone you can't even see? And imagine the paranoia. People would feel unsafe everywhere, in their homes, in their bedrooms, in their offices. Even when they're alone, they wouldn't feel alone. Because invisibility creates one terrifying thought. What if someone is standing right next to me right now? Even friendships would collapse. Relationships would be destroyed. Trust would disappear. Because the moment invisibility exists, privacy dies. Soon, governments would take action. New laws, new technology, special sensors to detect body heat, motion detectors everywhere. Airports would turn into military zones. Every city would feel like a prison. Because invisibility would be treated like a weapon. And the truth is, it would be one of the most dangerous weapons ever created. But the scariest part? Not everyone would use invisibility for crime. Some people would use it to escape life itself. A lonely person could walk through crowds and never be noticed. A depressed person could disappear and feel like they don't exist. A bullied student could turn invisible at school just to avoid being seen. At first, it sounds like protection, but slowly it becomes addiction. Because being invisible feels safe. No pressure, no expectations, no responsibility. You can do whatever you want without anyone judging you. And that's when invisibility becomes more than a power. It becomes a lifestyle, a habit, a prison. Imagine someone who turns invisible for 1 hour, then 2 hours, then every day, until they start thinking, why should I ever be visible again?
because being visible means facing people, facing problems, facing reality. But invisibility? Invisibility feels like freedom. And then, one day, something goes wrong. You turn invisible like always, but when you try to come back, nothing happens. You panic. You focus harder. Still nothing. You look into a mirror, but there's no reflection. You scream, but nobody reacts. You run into the street. Cars almost hit you because they can't see you. You try to grab someone, but they pull away in fear because all they feel is an invisible force. Now you realize the nightmare. You didn't just become invisible. You became untouchable, unseen, unheard, forgotten. And the worst part? You can't prove you exist. You can't call for help. You can't show your face. You can't even live a normal life. Imagine trying to eat, trying to work, trying to sleep, trying to talk. You could stand next to your family and they would never know you. You could watch your friends laugh and they would never notice you. You could be right there, but still be completely alone. And that's when you understand something terrifying. Invisibility isn't a superpower. It's a curse. Because humans weren't built to live unseen. We need connection. We need attention. We need love. We need to be recognized. But now, you're invisible forever. And as time passes, your mind starts breaking. You start talking to yourself. You start losing your identity. Because when no one sees you, you start forgetting who you are.